Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are getting incredibly real about workplace energy vampires. Seriously, if you've ever felt completely and totally drained after just a basic 5-minute chat with your manager, you are in the exact right place. We're putting on our psychological counseling hats today to deconstruct exactly what is happening in those moments. And more importantly, we're going to give you the literal psychological armor you need to protect your peace. Because let's be real, you aren't just dealing with an annoying boss. You are navigating a total psychological minefield. So let's break it all down and get you equipped.
Let's do a quick vibe check right off the bat. If a seemingly normal conversation with your manager leaves you second-guessing your own sanity, feeling completely wiped out, or wondering if maybe you're just being too sensitive, listen to me right now. You are absolutely not imagining things. That heavy exhaustion you're feeling, it's what we call internal friction. It is not a flaw in your personality, it's actually a direct result of navigating a really complex, toxic psychological dynamic. A lot of times, you're on the receiving end of subtle, emotional blackmail and power manipulation that's specifically designed to make you feel small. We need to validate that exhaustion right here, right now.
So here is our survival plan for today's explainer. 1. Decoding the boss's mind. 2. The HSP workplace superpower. 3. Practicing task separation. 4. Workplace combat scripts. And finally, 5. Building daily mental shields.
Let's jump right into Section 1. Decoding the boss's mind, opening the psychological black box.
To take back our power, we really have to understand the compensation psychology at play here. When your boss belittles your new shoes or makes some snide comment about your upcoming vacation, it feels so personal, right? But psychologically speaking, they are actually acting out of severe hidden inferiority. Because they can't find their own inner peace, they try to reestablish their superiority and control in the room by pushing you down. They project this intense authority because your great taste, your happiness, or just your independent life literally triggers their deepest insecurities. It makes them feel a profound loss of control. Plus, they often display pretty strong narcissistic traits. And what does that actually mean for you? It means they severely lack empathy. They don't see you or your coworkers as complete multidimensional human beings. To them, everyone is just a supporting character, a prop meant exclusively to highlight their success and inflate their fragile ego. It is never actually about you, it's always about their own internal void.
Understanding their defensive mechanism is absolutely the key to stepping off their emotional roller coaster. A defensive mechanism is basically a subconscious survival strategy. It's where a person preemptively attacks or invalidates someone else just to avoid feeling inferior themselves. They literally perceive your success as their personal defeat. And wow, does this create a toxic loop in the office? Essentially, they treat basic human connection like a battlefield. In their twisted logic, complimenting your new shoes or genuinely being happy that you're taking a vacation feels to them like they're losing a zero-sum game. So what do? They fire the first shot to protect that fragile ego, masking their own incompetence by invalidating your joy. Suddenly, everyday interaction becomes this exhausting power struggle.
And this brings us to the core conflict, the true source of your emotional drain. Just look at the stark contrast in motives here. Your boss is operating purely on image management and self-centered giving. Think about a boss who hogs the absolute best opportunities for themselves, throws the leftovers to the team, but still fiercely demands their absolute undying gratitude. They desperately want to play the benevolent hero without actually doing the work of being generous. Meanwhile, you, as a highly sensitive employee, are just desperately looking for genuine sincerity. You want authenticity and emotional consistency. The massive gap between their fake, manipulative emotional packaging and your deep core need for authenticity, that creates massive cognitive dissonance. This exhaustion gap is exactly what is causing your severe mental drain day in and day out.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the HSP workplace superpower, reframing your sensitivity. We are going to reframe this narrative entirely right now. Your high sensitivity, it is not a liability. It is actually a profound emotional radar. It's a literal superpower. As a highly sensitive person, or HSP, you aren't just complaining about work. Your radar for authenticity is incredibly sharp. You instantly detect that fake emotional packaging and those subtle power plays we just talked about. And here is the most powerful part. You have an incredibly strong internal moral compass. When you see your boss acting selfishly, your self-reflection kicks in immediately. You actively tell yourself, I am not going to become that kind of adult. You use your deep observation skills to make sure you never mirror those toxic behaviors. But let's be real, holding yourself to that standard while absorbing all their toxicity comes with a massive energy cost, and that's the inner friction we've got to manage.
I really need you to hear this quote. You are not abnormal. You just have a high moral compass and high sensitivity. Let that sink in for a second. You are not abnormal. You're not crazy, and you're for sure not broken. You're just incredibly perceptive. Feeling deeply uncomfortable around selfishness, narcissism, and manipulation isn't a character flaw. It's actually a huge sign of your psychological maturity and your strong conscience. You see the self-serving motives of human nature crystal clear. Your exhaustion just comes from holding yourself to a higher standard of humanity. Acknowledging this is step one in your psychological rebuilding. We have to own your sensitivity as a strength, not a sickness.
Let's look at Section 3, Practicing Task Separation, Disconnecting the Emotion.
So how do we practically use this knowledge to stop the internal drain? We use a core concept from Adlerian psychology known as task separation or emotion disconnection. Guys, this is the ultimate psychological boundary. When your toxic boss attacks your lifestyle or tries to emotionally blackmail you, you have to completely separate their words from your self-worth. You have to stop and ask yourself, whose task is this? If your boss is throwing a subtle tantrum over your boundaries, that is their emotional task to manage, not yours. You do not have to pick up their emotional garbage. The crucial takeaway here is realizing that their comment has absolutely zero to do with your value as a professional. It has everything to do with their insecurities. You just mentally tell yourself, okay, this is their internal monster acting out, and I am simply not participating in this drama.
Now for Section 4, Workplace Combat Scripts, the art of the period-style response. Okay, let's get into our role-play guide. Picture this. You walk into the office, you're having a good morning, and your boss throws out this exact provocation. Wow, new shoes. Must be nice to spend so much money while the rest of us are focused on work. Ouch, right? This is textbook emotional blackmail. The hook in that sentence is specifically designed to trigger your natural HSP empathy and guilt. They are desperately fishing for a reaction. They want you to explain your finances, feel guilty for treating yourself, get super defensive, or just shrink yourself down so their fragile ego can feel big again.
So how do we handle this? This is exactly how you gracefully but firmly shut them down using the period-style response. Let's break down why this is an absolute masterclass in psychological de-escalation. Step 1. Withhold all emotional feedback. Why? Because narcissists feed on your reaction. By staying blank, you starve them. Step 2. Smile politely. This maintains your professional courtesy and proves you aren't rattled. Step 3. Deliver a completely neutral agreement that ends with a hard period. Yeah, they're pretty comfortable. Why is this so brilliant? Because it gives them absolutely nothing to argue against. You agreed with the fact, but totally ignored the bait. And step 4, immediately pivot back to work. Physically break the engagement. By consistently starving them of the emotional drama they crave, they're going to realize their tactics don't work on you, and honestly, they'll find picking on you incredibly boring.
And finally, Section 5, Building Daily Mental Shields, the Everyday Detox.
To survive long-term, you need a proactive routine to clear out that toxic energy. We call this the daily mental detox. First things first, you've got to establish an invisible mental shield by stopping the oversharing. Protect your beautiful private life, your hobbies, and your joys from people who just don't have the empathy to appreciate them. Save your warmth for your real friends. Next, consciously empty the boss's noise the second you clock out. Leave that psychological baggage at the office door. Do not bring their voice into your home. And finally, actively maintain your inner order. Highly sensitive people need daily practices to process deep thoughts, whether that's a post-work walk, journaling, leaning into your faith, or even jumping into an AI chat as a safe space to vent and untangle your feelings. You have to create these safe spaces to detox, validate your worth, and keep your emotional balance in check.
I want to leave you with this final empowering thought today. How can you clearly see through human nature's selfishness, yet still fiercely protect your own kindness? Because listen, your ultimate victory in the workplace isn't about fixing your toxic boss. That's entirely out of your control, and quite frankly, it's none of your business. Your true victory is seeing clearly through their games, refusing to play along, and fiercely protecting your own brilliant, sensitive, and kind soul. Your empathy is a profound strength, not a weakness. You've got the psychological toolkit now. Go protect your peace. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.